Hey guys, tonight we begin with something that sounds almost peaceful compared to our usual topics: running a general store in the Wild West. You've seen them in every cowboy movie, the cozy little shop with rows of neat supplies, a friendly shopkeeper counting coins, maybe a cat sleeping on the counter. Sounds like honest work, right? A safe business far from the gunfights and gold rush chaos. Well, here's the truth. Running a general store in the frontier wasn't just about selling flour and collecting money. It was about gambling your entire livelihood on the whims of weather, desperados, economic collapse, and customers who might pay you in promises, bullets, or not at all. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if the algorithm gods smile upon you and you genuinely enjoy this kind of thing. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's fascinating to see who's listening from across the world while I talk about 100-year-old commerce. Congratulations, you've decided to open a general store in the Wild West. Maybe you've saved up money from years of working back east. Maybe you sold your family farm. Maybe you won big at poker and somehow kept your winnings long enough to invest them. Either way, you've arrived in a boomtown, a place that didn't exist 6 months ago and might not exist 6 months from now, with a wagon full of supplies, a dream of steady profit, and absolutely no idea what you've gotten yourself into. Your first challenge: finding a building. And by building, I mean 4 walls that don't collapse when the wind picks up. Most boomtowns are just rows of hastily constructed wooden shacks with canvas roofs, dirt floors, and the structural integrity of a sneeze. If you're lucky, you'll find a spot on the main street, a muddy path optimistically called a road, where foot traffic is highest. If you're not lucky, you're setting up shop in a tent next to the saloon, which means drunks stumbling through your inventory at 2 a.m. looking for crackers. Let's say you secure a building. It's got walls, a door that mostly closes, and a roof that only leaks when it rains, which is both rare and catastrophic in these parts. Now comes the fun part: stocking it. You've brought supplies with you, sure, but you're going to need more, a lot more. And getting goods to the frontier is expensive, slow, and dangerous. Everything you sell has traveled hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles to reach your store. Fabric from the East Coast, canned goods from factories in Chicago, tools from manufacturers who've never seen a desert. All of it hauled by wagon train, stagecoach, or riverboat, each mile adding to the cost. By the time a simple tin of peaches reaches your shelf, it's worth 3 times what it cost back in civilization, and you're expected to sell it for 5 times that amount just to break even, and maybe turn a profit. Your inventory is a bizarre mix of essentials and luxuries, practical and absurd. Flour, beans, salt pork, the holy trinity of frontier survival. Coffee, sugar, dried fruit. Tobacco, whiskey, patent medicines that are 90% alcohol and 10% lies. Tools, hammers, nails, saws, axes, rope, lots of rope, fabric for clothes, needles and thread for mending, boots, hats, gloves, guns, ammunition, and the occasional knife that doubles as kitchenware. You've also got oddities, fancy soaps nobody can afford, a single bolt of silk that's been gathering dust since you opened, a box of books that miners eye suspiciously like they might contain witchcraft. You arrange everything as neatly as possible on rough wooden shelves you built yourself. The floor is dirt, packed down hard from foot traffic. The walls are unfinished wood, gaps wide enough to let in dust, flies, and the occasional snake. There's a counter, just a plank across 2 barrels, where you'll conduct business, negotiate prices, and occasionally duck behind when disagreements get heated. And there's a ledger, a thick book where you'll record every sale, every debt, every promise to pay. That ledger will become the bane of your existence. Because here's the thing about the Wild West: nobody has cash. Oh, they want your goods. They need your goods. But paying for them, that's optional. Welcome to the credit economy. where everyone owes you money and you're somehow the villain for wanting it back. You open your doors on day one, full of optimism. Customers pour in. Miners, cowboys, drifters, families setting up homesteads. They need everything. Flour for bread, nails for building, fabric for clothes. Your shelves start to empty, which seems like a good sign until you realize most of these people aren't paying. Put it on my account, they say. I'll pay you. When I strike gold, I'll settle up after the cattle drive. My claim's gonna pay out any day now. And you, wanting to be neighborly, wanting to build goodwill, wanting to believe that people are fundamentally honest, you write it down in your ledger. Name, item, amount owed. You shake hands. They leave with your merchandise. You're left with a piece of paper that says someone somewhere theoretically owes you money. Days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into months. Your ledger grows fat with debts. Some customers pay, bless them, but most don't. And you can't exactly refuse service because in a town of 300 people, word spreads fast. Refuse credit to one miner, and suddenly, you're the heartless merchant who doesn't understand frontier hardship. Never mind that you've got your own bills to pay, your own suppliers demanding payment. Never mind that you're slowly going broke while everyone else walks around wearing the boots you sold them on credit. You try to collect, politely at first. Hey Bill, remember that flour and beans from last month? Any chance you could settle that? Bill looks at you like you just insulted his mother. Times are tough, he says, as if you're personally responsible for his lack of gold. You smile, you nod, you write it off internally and hope he'll pay eventually. But Bill never pays. Bill leaves town in the middle of the night, owing you $47, which doesn't sound like much until you realize that's nearly a month's profit. And Bill isn't alone. Half your customers are Bills, good-natured, well-meaning people who genuinely believe they'll strike it rich and pay you back double. They won't. They'll leave, go broke, or die, and you'll be left holding a ledger full of worthless promises. Some debts you forgive because you're not heartless. The widow who needs flour to feed her children? Fine. Take it. The injured miner who can't work? Okay. Have some beans. You're not running a charity, but you're also not a monster. The problem is, charity doesn't pay your suppliers, and suppliers don't care about your conscience. They want cash, real, actual money. Not stories about hard luck miners, not excuses. Money. So you develop a system. New customers pay cash up front. Regulars get limited credit. Known deadbeats get nothing. You become harder, sharper, less trusting. You have to. Because every dollar you give away on credit is a dollar you might never see again. And in the Wild West, where fortunes change daily and people disappear overnight, betting on someone's future is a losing game. Your store isn't just a business. It's the town's social hub, post office, bank, and occasionally courthouse. You're not just a shopkeeper. You're a community pillar whether you want to be or not. People gather at your store to hear news. Who struck gold? Who got shot? Whose claim got jumped? You hear it all because everyone who walks through your door has a story, a complaint, or a rumor, and they're happy to share while browsing your shelves. You become the unofficial keeper of town gossip, which is useful for business, knowing who's flush with cash, but also dangerous. Knowing too much makes you a target. You're also the post office. Mail arrives sporadically, sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly, and it all comes through your store. You sort letters, hold packages, and deal with the heartbreak of unclaimed mail for people who've moved on, died, or were never real to begin with. Some days you hand a cowboy a letter from home and watch his eyes water. Other days you tell a miner his family wrote him off, and he walks out without buying anything. You're the bank. Not officially, but practically. People leave valuables with you. Gold dust, cash, important documents, because your store has a lock and their tent doesn't. You've got a small safe maybe, or just a locked drawer. Either way, you're trusted with other people's fortunes, which means you're also responsible when things go missing. And things will go missing. You're the judge. Disputes happen. Two miners argue over a claim boundary. A cowboy accuses another of cheating at cards. A woman insists she paid for fabric you have no record of selling. And somehow, they all end up in your store, expecting you to mediate. You didn't ask for this responsibility. You're not qualified. But you're respected, mostly. So you settle arguments with the wisdom of Solomon and the patience of a saint, knowing full well that whoever loses will hold a grudge. This central role in the community is both a blessing and a burden. On good days, it means you're valued, trusted, even loved. People rely on you. They thank you. They bring you homemade bread or freshly caught fish as gestures of appreciation. On bad days, it means you're everyone's target. Prices too high? Your fault. Out of stock? Your fault. Someone's in a bad mood? Take it out on the storekeeper. You work 7 days a week because if you close, people complain. You work from dawn until late evening because customers show up whenever they feel like it. You're never truly off duty because someone might need emergency supplies, a snakebite kit, lamp oil, ammunition for a hunting trip gone wrong. Your life revolves around the store. It consumes you. And yet, in quiet moments, when you see a child's face light up over a peppermint stick or a weary traveler, thank you for fair prices. You remember why you're doing this. Running a store in the Wild West isn't about wealth. It's about service, survival, and somehow staying sane while the world around you tries its best to drive you mad. Let's talk about inventory management, which sounds boring until you realize it's a matter of life, death, and bankruptcy. You order supplies months in advance. You place an order in spring, and if you're lucky, it arrives by summer. If you're unlucky, it arrives never. Lost somewhere between Kansas and nowhere when a wagon train got attacked, a riverboat sank, or your supplier decided you weren't worth the trouble. Every order is a gamble. You're betting on what people will need months from now, in a town whose population might double, disappear, or stay exactly the same. Overstock the wrong items, and you're stuck with merchandise nobody wants, watching your capital gather dust on shelves while you can't pay for the goods people actually need. Understock essentials, and you lose customers to the competitor who just opened across the street. Yes, there's always a competitor. You've got to balance. Enough flour to meet demand, but not so much it goes bad. Enough ammunition to supply hunters, but not so much you look like you're arming a militia. Enough luxury items to attract big spenders, but not so many you waste precious shelf space. Then there's spoilage. Flour gets weevils. Dried fruit hardens into inedible lumps. Fabric fades from sun exposure because your windows, if you have them, don't have curtains. Canned goods rust. Medicines expire. Not that anyone checks expiration dates in 1870. You lose stock to mice, insects, heat, cold, and mysterious disappearances that you suspect involve light-fingered customers but can't prove. And theft. Oh, the theft. You can't watch everyone all the time. The store's too big, too crowded, too chaotic. People slip things into pockets, bags, coat linings. Small items mostly. Tobacco, candy, ammunition. But it adds up. You catch someone occasionally, confront them carefully because accusing the wrong person can get you shot, and usually end up banning them from the store. But for every thief you catch, 5 more get away. You also deal with damage. A drunk stumbles into a shelf, shattering jars of preserves. A fight breaks out near the flour barrels, splitting one open and spilling 50 pounds of your inventory onto the dirt floor. A horse tied outside kicks through your front window. Yes, horses can do that. Every incident costs you money, time, and patience. Pricing is another nightmare. Charge too much, and people accuse you of price gouging. Charge too little, and you don't make enough profit to survive. You're constantly calculating, what did it cost to get this here? What can people afford? What will they pay? The answer varies wildly depending on supply, demand, and how desperate everyone is. After a harsh winter when supplies are low, you can charge premium prices and people will pay because the alternative is starvation. During a boom, when 3 new stores open, you drop prices just to stay competitive. You develop strategies. Loss leaders sell flour cheap to get people in the door, then make profit on everything else. Bundling, buy a pickaxe, get a discount on nails. Seasonal sales, clear out winter coats in spring because nobody wants them and they're taking up space you need for. Summer hats, you become part businessman, part psychologist, constantly reading your customers, adjusting your approach, doing whatever it takes to keep inventory moving and cash flowing. Because at the end of the day, your store is only as good as your stock. Empty shelves mean no sales. No sales mean no money. No money means no orders. No orders mean empty shelves. It's a cycle you must maintain, constantly balancing on the knife's edge between success and failure. You think opening a store in a boomtown means instant wealth? Think again. The Wild West economy is chaos wrapped in uncertainty with a side of catastrophe. Boomtowns boom, yes, but they also bust. Spectacularly. You set up shop in a mining town with 2,000 residents. Business is great. You're making money. Everything's perfect. Then the mine runs dry. Within weeks, the population drops to 200. Your customer base evaporates overnight. The merchants who owe you money, gone. The miners who bought on credit, vanished. You're left in a near ghost town with a store full of merchandise and nobody to sell it to. Do you stay, hoping the town recovers? Do you cut your losses, pack up, and move to the next boomtown? Either choice is expensive, risky, and possibly disastrous. Stay, and you might go broke waiting for a recovery that never comes. Leave, and you abandon whatever goodwill and reputation you've built, plus the cost of moving everything again. Then there's currency confusion. In theory, US dollars are the standard. In practice, you're dealing with gold dust, Mexican pesos, foreign coins, personal IOUs, and occasionally barter. A miner pays you in gold dust. Great, except you need to weigh it, verify its purity, you're not a metallurgist, and hope he didn't mix in brass filings to cheat you. Someone offers Spanish coins from a robbery 3 states over. Do you accept? What's the exchange rate? Who knows? You make your best guess and hope you're not getting swindled. Barter is common. A rancher trades beef for supplies. A farmer offers vegetables. A blacksmith fixes your stove in exchange for credit. You accept because refusing means losing business. But now you've got 40 pounds of squash you need to sell or eat before it rots. And you're not even sure squash is worth the nails you traded for it. Economic crashes happen without warning. A bank fails back east, and suddenly nobody has money. A railroad changes its route, and your town's no longer on the map. A harsh winter kills cattle, ruins crops, and destroys the local economy. You watch helplessly as your carefully built business crumbles because forces completely beyond your control decided to ruin your year. Competition is brutal. Another merchant opens across the street with lower prices because he bought goods stolen from a wagon train. You can't prove it, but you know. Suddenly, your honest pricing looks expensive. You've got 2 choices: lower your prices and sacrifice profit, or maintain your margins and lose customers. Either way, you suffer. And let's not forget suppliers. You depend entirely on merchants and distributors hundreds of miles away who may or may not care whether you succeed. They demand payment up front or on delivery. They don't care that your customers haven't paid you. They don't care that a flood delayed your last shipment. They want money, and if you can't pay, they cut you off. No supplies means no business. You're done. Some months you make good money. The mine hits a rich vein, miners celebrate, and everyone's buying. You stock expensive items, good whiskey, fine cigars, fancy hats, and they sell out. You're thrilled. Then reality hits. You've got to restock, which costs money you've mostly paid out in debts, repairs, and personal survival. The profit you thought you made? It's already gone. Other months, you barely break even, Sales are slow. Debts pile up. You dip into personal savings to keep the doors open. You eat beans and stale bread because spending money on decent food means less money for inventory. You're running a business, but you're living like a beggar. The stress is constant. Will this month's shipment arrive? Will customers pay their debts? Will the town survive another year? Will a competitor undercut you into bankruptcy? Will a fire, flood, or robbery destroy everything you've built? You go to bed worried and wake up anxious. Every day is a new crisis waiting to happen. But here's the thing. When it works, it really works. A good month can erase a bad quarter. A loyal customer base can carry you through hard times. And the satisfaction of building something real, something that serves people and keeps a community functioning, that's worth something. Not everything, but something. Let's address the elephant in the room. Violence. You're running a business in a place where law is optional, guns are everywhere, and tempers run hotter than a blacksmith's forge. Robbery is a constant threat. Your store is full of valuable goods, tools, weapons, money, gold dust, and everyone knows it. You're a target. Some robberies are opportunistic. A drifter grabs a few items and runs. Others are planned. Armed men burst in, guns drawn, demanding cash and merchandise. You've got a shotgun under the counter. Of course you do. But using it means risking your life, and no amount of inventory is worth dying over. You develop precautions. You keep minimal cash on hand, depositing earnings regularly, if there's a bank. You lock up valuables at night. You sleep in the back room with one eye open and a weapon within reach. You befriend the town marshal if there is one, and hope he's competent and not corrupt. You try to look poor, humble, not worth robbing, but none of it guarantees safety. Some merchants get robbed repeatedly. They rebuild, restock, and get robbed again. It's a cycle of loss and resilience that would break most people. But what choice do they have? Give up and go back east? Start over somewhere else? Most just endure, patch the bullet holes, replace the stolen goods, and keep going. Then there are disputes. A customer accuses you of cheating on weight or price. Maybe you did. Honestly, scales aren't perfect. Maybe you didn't, but they're angry, possibly drunk, definitely armed. You apologize, offer a refund or discount, do whatever it takes to de-escalate. Because the alternative, a shootout over 2 pounds of coffee, is absurd and deadly. Violence spills into your store from outside. A bar fight continues into your shop. Cowboys use your porch for a shootout. Someone hides in your storeroom, bleeding from a wound, begging you not to turn him in. You're not involved in their conflicts, but you're caught in the middle anyway. You patch wounds, hide fugitives, or cooperate with posses, navigating moral dilemmas daily. You also deal with intimidation. Outlaws come in, buy nothing, just browse menacingly, letting you know they could rob you any time. Local toughs demand protection money. Pay us, and we'll make sure nothing bad happens to your store. Implication, we're the bad thing. You pay or refuse, both choices risky. Despite all this, most days are peaceful. Customers come and go, transactions happen, life continues. But the potential for violence is always there, humming in the background like a rattlesnake you can't quite see. You learn to read body language, detect trouble before it starts, and when to keep your mouth shut. You learn that being a shopkeeper in the Wild West means being part merchant, part diplomat, part survivor. And here's the strange part. You get used to it. The first robbery terrifies you. The second angers you. By the fifth, it's just another Tuesday. You clean up, file a report, maybe, and open the next morning, because what else can you do? The West is wild, and you're just trying to make an honest living in the chaos. Now let's talk about the good stuff, because despite everything, there are genuine rewards to running a general store in the Wild West. First, respect. You're not just a shopkeeper, you're a cornerstone of the community. People depend on you. When a family runs out of flour, you provide it. When a miner needs a new pickaxe, you supply it. When someone's child is sick and needs medicine, you're the one who has it. You're essential. That means something. People tip their hats when you pass. They greet you by name. They trust you with their business, their secrets, sometimes their lives. Second, opportunity. Yes, the economy is volatile, but when things go right, they go very right. A gold strike nearby can triple your business overnight. Suddenly, miners flush with cash are buying everything. New clothes, good boots, luxury items they've been dreaming about for months. You sell out of stock and reorder immediately, making more in 1 week than you did all last month. Smart merchants ride these booms, save aggressively, and prepare for the inevitable bust. Third, relationships. You get to know people. Real people, with real stories. The widow trying to keep her homestead running. The young couple starting a ranch. The old prospector who's been searching for gold for 20 years and still believes his next claim will be the one. You're part of their lives. You celebrate their successes and sell them champagne. You support them through failures and extend credit when you probably shouldn't. These connections are meaningful. They're what make the hard days bearable. Fourth, autonomy. You're your own boss. Nobody tells you when to open, what to stock, how to run things. You make the decisions. You control your destiny as much as anyone can in the Wild West. That freedom is intoxicating. Sure, it comes with responsibility and risk, but it's yours. You built this. Every shelf, every sale, every satisfied customer, that's your accomplishment. Fifth, variety. No 2 days are the same. One day you're negotiating with a whiskey supplier. The next, you're mediating a dispute between neighbors. Then you're organizing a community dance in front of your store, or hosting a traveling salesman with exotic goods, or helping the school teacher order books for the new school. It's unpredictable, chaotic, and occasionally wonderful. Sixth, purpose. You're building something, not just a business, but a community. Stores are where towns begin. Your willingness to set up shop, stock goods, and serve people gives others a reason to settle nearby. Families move in because there's a reliable store. Other businesses open because there's infrastructure. You're not just selling beans and nails, you're creating civilization in the wilderness. That's powerful. And sometimes, just sometimes, everything aligns. You've got good stock, loyal customers, fair weather, and a peaceful week. Sales are steady. Debts are being paid. Nobody's robbing you or threatening violence. You stand behind your counter, looking at your full shelves, listening to the friendly chatter of customers, and think, I did this. This is mine. And in that moment, all the hardship, the debt, the violence, the uncertainty, it's worth it. Because running a store in the Wild West isn't just about survival. It's about contribution, connection, and building something lasting in a place that's constantly changing. And for those brave or foolish enough to try, that's everything. Let's talk about what happens when the sun goes down and your workday supposedly ends, except it never really does. You live in the back room of your store or directly above it, which sounds convenient until you realize it means you're never off duty. Ever. A customer pounds on the door at midnight because his wife's in labor and he needs medical supplies. You stumble out of bed, unlock the shop, sell him what he needs, and try to go back to sleep. 2 hours later, someone else knocks because a poker game needs more whiskey. You're exhausted, irritated, but you make the sale because refusing might mean losing their business permanently. Your living quarters are sparse. A bed, maybe a small stove, a chair if you're lucky. Privacy? Non-existent. The walls are thin. You hear every conversation in the store during business hours and every drunk stumbling past at night. You smell everything too. Tobacco smoke, horse manure from the street, the persistent odor of whatever's rotting in the alley out. Back. It's not glamorous. It's barely comfortable. But it's home. You eat alone most nights. Simple meals. Beans. Bacon. Bread you baked yourself or traded for. Occasionally, a grateful customer brings you fresh eggs or a pie, and those nights feel like Christmas. You read by lamplight if you've got books or newspapers, months old, but news is news. Mostly you review your ledger, calculating debts, planning orders, worrying about money. Your evening relaxation is just more work in a quieter setting. Loneliness is common, especially if you're unmarried. You're surrounded by people all day, but those are business relationships, not friendships. Everyone wants something from you. Goods, credit, favors. Genuine connection is rare. Some storekeepers marry, and having a partner transforms the business. Suddenly, there's someone to share the work, the worry, the small victories. But finding that person in a town where women are scarce and everyone's transient, that's its own challenge. Sleep is fitful. You're always listening for signs of fire, break-ins, trouble. A loud noise outside jolts you awake, heart pounding. Is someone robbing you? Is there a fight? A fire spreading? You grab your weapon, creep to the window, and peer out into the darkness. Usually it's nothing. A dog, a drunk, the wind. But sometimes it's something, and you've learned the hard way that ignoring warnings can be fatal. Illness is terrifying because you can't afford to be sick. Who runs the store if you're bedridden with fever? Who serves customers, prevents theft, manages inventory? You push through illness, dosing yourself with the same questionable patent medicines you sell, and hope your body recovers before your business collapses. And if you're seriously injured or ill, you might have to close temporarily, losing income and customers to competitors who are healthy enough to stay open. Yet, there are quiet pleasures. A peaceful evening when the store's tidy, accounts are balanced, and you've got a little money set aside. The satisfaction of a long day's work well done. The occasional letter from family back east, reminding you that you're not entirely alone in the world. A moment sitting on your front porch at dusk, watching the sun set over the rugged landscape and thinking, I'm making it. Against all odds, I'm surviving. This is the hidden cost of running a store in the Wild West. It consumes your entire existence. Work and life blur into one exhausting, relentless grind. But for those who endure, there's a quiet pride in that grind. You're not just surviving, you're persisting. And in the Wild West, persistence is its own form of victory. Let's talk about the absolute chaos of frontier commerce, where business as usual means dealing with the strangest transactions you've ever imagined. You accept payment in forms that would make modern accountants weep. Gold dust is common, but its value fluctuates based on purity, and you're expected to assess it on the spot with a scale that might be accurate. It's not. A customer plops down a pouch, you weigh it, squint at the color, maybe bite it, yes, really, and quote a value. They argue, you negotiate. Eventually you agree on a price that's probably wrong for both of you, but close enough. Silver coins from Mexico, old Spanish pieces of 8, even foreign currency from God knows where. You take it all because refusing money, any money, means losing sales. You've got a rough conversion chart in your head. 1 Spanish dollar equals about 85 cents, maybe, and you do your best. Some customers try to cheat, mixing base metals with real coins. Others are honest, but genuinely don't know the value of what they're offering. You become part merchant, part appraiser, part detective. Barter is a daily occurrence. A trapper offers you beaver pelts for supplies. You don't need beaver pelts. Nobody needs beaver pelts in a mining town in July. But you take them anyway because turning down trade is bad business. And maybe, just maybe, you can trade those pelts to a traveling merchant for something useful. Now you're a fur trader. Congratulations. A farmer gives you eggs, butter, vegetables. A hunter brings in venison or rabbit. A cowboy trades a saddle he doesn't need anymore. A widow offers handmade quilts. You accept it all, resell what you can, consume what you can't, and occasionally end up with bizarre inventory items like a stuffed coyote. Someone thought you'd want it for decoration. Or a broken pocket watch. They swore it was gold. It's brass. You also deal with unique frontier requests. Someone wants a custom order, a specific type of bullet, a particular shade of fabric. a book that doesn't exist anywhere within 500 miles. You nod, take notes, and promise to try. Sometimes you deliver, contacting suppliers, waiting months for specialty items. Other times, you quietly forget because the requester skipped town or died before the order arrived. Then there are emergencies. A mining accident creates sudden demand for medical supplies, rope, and wood for coffins. Grim, but someone has to provide them. A wildfire threatens the town, and everyone needs buckets, shovels, blankets. A harsh winter storm strands travelers, and they need food, shelter, warmth. You rise to these occasions, providing essentials even when it depletes your stock, because in times of crisis, being the person who helps matters more than profit. You also become an informal lender, not just extending credit for goods, but occasionally loaning cash to people in desperate situations. A family needs money for a doctor. A miner needs to file a claim but can't afford the fee. They come to you, hat in hand, asking for help. Sometimes you say yes because it's the right thing to do. Sometimes you say no because you simply can't afford to give away more money. Either way, you're making moral decisions that affect people's lives, and that weight never gets lighter. And let's not forget the scams. Traveling salesmen sell you miracle products that turn out to be worthless. Customers return items they clearly damaged themselves, demanding refunds. Someone tries to pay with counterfeit bills. Another swaps price tags, hoping you won't notice. You catch some of it, miss some of it, and chalk the losses up to the cost of doing business in a place where everyone's hustling to survive. Through it all, you develop instincts. You learn to spot honest people versus con artists. You recognize desperation versus entitlement. You know which debts will be paid and which are already lost causes. You become shrewd, cautious, but also compassionate because everyone out here is struggling in their own way. And kindness, measured, careful kindness, can make all the difference. The Wild West General Store isn't just a shop. It's a financial circus, a community lifeline, and a daily test of your judgment, patience, and character. And somehow, against all logic, you make it work. Here's the thing, nobody tells you about running a general store in the Wild West. Eventually, something will try to destroy it. Fire is the most common threat. Your building is wood, probably dry, surrounded by other wooden buildings, in a place where fire departments don't exist. A lamp tips over in the saloon next door, and within minutes, half the street is ablaze. You've got minutes, maybe, to grab your cash box, your ledger, and whatever inventory you can carry before flames consume everything you've built. Some storekeepers survive fires. They rebuild, restock, start over. Others don't recover. The cost of rebuilding, replacing inventory, and surviving without income during reconstruction is too much. They sell the charred lot for pennies and leave town, another casualty of frontier life. Floods happen in places you wouldn't expect. A spring thaw, a sudden storm, a river that changes course. Suddenly your store is underwater, inventory ruined, structure damaged, everything you own destroyed by nature's indifference. You stand in knee-deep water, watching cans of food float past, and wonder why you ever thought this was a good idea. Then there are the economic disasters. The mine closes permanently. The railroad chooses a different route. A competing town offers better opportunities, and everyone leaves. Your bustling store becomes a lonely outpost in a ghost town. You can stay and starve, or leave and lose everything you invested. There's no good choice. Some stores are destroyed by violence. A grudge, a robbery gone wrong, a town feud. Someone decides your store is a target. They burn it, vandalize it, or simply rob it so thoroughly that you can't recover. Insurance? That's a luxury most frontier merchants can't afford. When disaster strikes, you absorb the loss and move on, or you don't. And yet, many storekeepers endure. They rebuild after fires. They relocate after floods. They adapt when economies shift. Because persistence isn't just a trait, it's a requirement. The West doesn't care about your plans, your dreams, or your effort. It's harsh, unforgiving, and utterly indifferent. But the people who succeed are the ones who refuse to quit, who rebuild from ashes, who look at total loss and say, "All right, let's start again." That resilience creates legends. Stories of merchants who lost everything twice and built back stronger each time. Storekeepers who became wealthy not through luck, but through relentless determination. These aren't fairy tales. They're real people who faced the same threats, same violence, same uncertainty, and chose to keep going. So, how's your experience? Running a general store in the Wild West been? You've extended credit to people who'll never pay, navigated an economy built on dust and dreams, survived robbery attempts, mediated disputes, accepted payment in everything from gold dust to beaver pelts, worked 7 days a week from dawn to midnight, and occasionally wondered if it's all worth it. Still dreaming of frontier entrepreneurship, of building a business in the untamed West, serving pioneers, and making your fortune. The reality is far messier than the myth. It's not about grand adventures or striking it rich. It's about grinding, daily work, managing inventory, collecting debts, surviving violence, and staying afloat in an economy that could collapse tomorrow. But here's what the movies don't show. The storekeepers were the unsung architects of civilization. While miners dug for gold and cowboys drove cattle, merchants built the infrastructure that allowed towns to exist. They provided food, tools, medicine, and stability. They extended credit when people had nothing, offered jobs to those who needed them, and created gathering places where communities formed. Running a store in the Wild West was never easy. It was risky, exhausting, and often unrewarding. But the people who did it, who stocked shelves in the middle of nowhere, who trusted strangers with credit, who rebuilt after disasters, they were builders. Not of empires, but of something more fundamental. The basic commerce and connection that transformed wilderness into towns, and towns into civilization. And through all the chaos, the bad debts, the violence, the uncertainty, many found something valuable. Not always wealth, but purpose, relationships, a sense of belonging to something larger than themselves. They became pillars of their communities, remembered long after the gold rush ended and the boomtowns faded. So tonight, when you walk into a modern store with clear prices, reliable supply chains, and credit cards that actually guarantee payment, take a moment to appreciate it. Because your predecessors, the frontier storekeepers, built the foundations of commerce in a place where simply surviving the week was an accomplishment. They endured the Wild West chaos, extended trust when it was dangerous, and somehow kept their shelves stocked and their doors open. And somewhere in the dust of an old mining town, in the ruins of a wooden storefront, their legacy remains. The quiet persistence of people who built civilization one transaction at a time.